Okay. I'd like to call to order the Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education regularly scheduled meeting for September 25th, 2018. Mrs. Saradaki, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Brody?
Yes, I'm here.
Dr. Clancy?
Here.
Mr. Murray?
Here.
Mrs. Suriani?
Here.
Mrs. Williams?
Here.
Mrs. Winkler?
Here.
Dr. Kulikowski?
Here.
Mrs. Bauer?
Here.
Quorum is present.
Thank you. Please join us in the salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So the board just met in executive session. We discussed personnel, suspensions, and HIB. Notice of these for this meeting was given to the Borough Clerk of Fanwood, Township Clerk of Scotch Plains, and to the Times. We have 3 additions to the agenda that are listed. Are those the only ones? Okay, 1S, 11 BUS, and 7 OBB, and they're listed further in the agenda, so they're all.
1 BUS. There are additional
And
staff training.
1 BUS, okay. Yes, it wasn't listed in the additions, thank you. Okay, and that brings us to an opportunity for members of the public to come to the microphone. And according to our policies 0164 and 0165, if anyone would like to come to the microphone, you have 2 minutes. Please give us your name and the town in which you reside.
Now.
Yeah?
So my name is Asia Moran. I live in Scotch Plains, 2209 Greenside Place. Okay. So I came to speak about STEM. I wish to connect students to their immediate natural environment. I would like them to know the trees, the animals, the terrain in our neighborhood. I would like them to know where the water comes from to their homes, where the sewage goes, where do they get their electricity, gas, and food. It is important knowledge that will allow them to develop relationship with each other, with their human neighbors, and their natural environment. I believe that in the long run, it will enhance their quality of life. It will give them physical confidence, physical, mental health strong. I am available at your convenience to elaborate on this idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else? Okay. I know we have some committee reports, so who would like to go first?
Well, I guess I could go, but I forgot to bring my notes.
I have them on my phone.
Oh, let me see. Oh, thank you.
I have it right here.
Oh, all right, that's good. Okay, Finance Committee, we met on Monday, September 17th, and, I understand. And Mrs. Saradaki gave us the following information. The auditors were in the office last week doing their annual audit of the district's finances, and that report will be presented to the Finance Committee and to the public at a meeting later in the fall. The budget assumptions and budget guidelines for the 2019-2020 budget were given to the committee for review, and we all noted that Mrs. Saradaki is so organized, she's ahead of herself again. So now we're looking at them earlier, but anyway, so we're looking at At those, she also is having a meeting with Tom Potter of Potter Architects to review the field and track repair, and it will let us know after she gets estimated costs for that project. And she also reviewed with us a proposal from L Associates for future air conditioning projects. And our next meeting will be on Wednesday, October 10th.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay, Dr. Kulikowski.
The curriculum committee met on September 17th, and we had several presenters. We had Erin Mullman, supervisor of elementary programs, speaking about Quest. The Quest program was reviewed utilizing Dr. James Borland from the Teachers College of Columbia University for an objective evaluation over the past 2 years, looking at all procedures and units of study. The review highlights included evidence of a severe commitment to the students' educational needs and collegiality, and that the Quest program was fortunate to have highly skilled and dedicated professionals, and this, he quoted, was not seen in all districts. Also, that the identification process in many ways was exemplary. Based on the data collected, Dr. Borland provided an evaluation and areas for future enhancement. Some of those areas to grow included to identify and articulate the goals and purpose of the Quest program, to communicate the same with staff and the community, to analyze the identification process to make sure it is sensitive to the giftedness of all children, and to articulate the scope and sequence of the curriculum of the program and ensure that the curriculum is connected to the core content curriculum through extensions or enrichments of content and skills. The summer curriculum work had some revision of goals and identified the curriculum priorities. There was a review and update scope and sequence, and update units of study for grade 3, the writing enrichment, grade 4, innovation and change, grade 5, mission to Mars, and grade 7, energy quest. And Ms. Mullman also did the basic skills update. Title I programs had a 2-week summer program at a glance to support the academic and social transition for students entering a new school. The Stepping Stones program at Park Middle School had 12 students, and the Freshman Academy for 9th graders at the Scotch Plains Fanwood High School had 20 students to provide academic support. The academic support included reviewing and previewing content skills from the previous and upcoming school year, respectively. There was also social support, including team building skills and games to familiarize students with their new schools. Looking ahead to this year, after-school programs will be held at Brunner, Evergreen, School 1, Park, and the Scotch Plains Fanwood High School to provide academic support. The elementary I2, inspiration and innovation, including Lego story starters, to enhance creativity and support the students in the writing process. At Park Middle School, the I2, students will engage in the inquiry projects where they will read high-interest text of their choosing and participate in small group discussions. The students will also generate questions, a research topic of their choice related to the text, and create a project to share their learning with others. The Freshman Academy will be held at the high school to provide small group tutoring in the core content areas and support study skills. Next, we had John Veninger, supervisor of mathematics K through 12, about robotics in the middle school, gave us an update, and that the K through 5 was doing math exploration, and in December there was a week of coding. And the students that really like the robotics, and he showed us a brief video showing how they were working on the projects and going on, not just to do the exercise, but they liked it so much they wanted more. And they also had Snap Blocks in the 6th grade, which is a pilot, and Java, Java, for the AP Computer Science students.
Next, we had Kate Rossander, Supervisor of Elementary Programs. She talked about kindergarten and preschool summer work update. As for the preschool, they did curriculum writing, creative curriculum for preschool, 6th edition, and the Phase 2 study included boxes, baking bread, exercise, music making, pets, and roads. They identified essential questions and enduring understandings that will guide the 3- and 4-year-old children in making sense of their world. They highlighted the critical vocabulary terms for building children's word bank and supporting communication skills. And they prioritized literacy and mathematics skills for small group instruction and connected these to the New Jersey preschool teaching and learning standards. For the kindergarten, they talked about science, mathematics, and in general. For science, they examined the next generation science standards, and they created a weekly scope and sequence for the 3 FOSS modules. And those FOSS modules are the earth science, about trees and weather, physical science, materials in motion, life science, animals, 2x2. And they prioritized the lessons, strengthened cross-curricular connections, and infused more developmentally appropriate practices. For the math, they revised the daily pacing guide, created alignment to the document to link to the New Jersey Student Learning Standards, and the teaching strategies gold, and the objectives for development and learning. They did the birth through 3rd grade and everyday mathematics lessons. They further developed the beginning of the year assessment to strategically capture the assessment's evidence for the number of concepts, spatial relationships, and measurements and patterns. In general, they revised the full-day pacing guide for the first 4 weeks of school to connect the content area and skills and concept while building the classroom community and establishing routines for the students. Next, we had Kate Rossander talking about a publication participation. What they're going to do is with another author. It's called Navigating the Three-Dimensional World, Guiding Spatial Development in Young Children. And they did work with the New Jersey Department of Education over the past several years, and they created an extensive network of professional colleagues and built a strong reputation for promoting best practices in early childhood education. That being said, the preschool and kindergarten teachers have been invited by Roseanne Hansel, an early childhood specialist who's retired from the Department of Education, to participate as voluntary contributors to a new book, co-authoring tentatively entitled Navigating the Three-Dimensional World, Guiding Spatial Development in Young Children. The teachers who choose to participate in this endeavor will experience a unique professional development opportunity that builds their understanding of the child development and instructional practices while contributing to professional learning publication. So basically, the professional development opportunity here is that all of these teachers will work on making a new textbook. So the action research on promoting the children's spatial development, they'll have them read and discuss scholarly articles and phases of spatial development, identify instructional opportunities within everyday mathematics, create additional opportunities for children to develop spatial reasoning through open-ended activities during math block and choice time, observe children in action and record their anecdotal evidence, document children's learning through photographs, which may be shared with the co-authors and possibly included in the book, and then to analyze the data collected to refine the activities. Logistics include photography releases from the Red Leaf Press, that's the publisher, a release for photo publication of a minor, photographer publication release, and model release for any photos that are going to be in the publication. Next, we had Elizabeth McKenna, Supervisor of English K through 12. She spoke about the language arts proficiencies, grade 6. She reflected on the switch from the Common Core Standards to the New Jersey Student Learning Standards. And then there was a bunch of proficiencies and their codes, which I'm not going to read that entire list, but there were from English from the high school, from English 1 through AP, English 4. Some public speaking, dramatic literature, some journalism, yearbook courses, creative writing, and TV news broadcast journalism. At the middle school, it all was from 6th, 7th, and 8th, dealing with language arts and writing a workshop for each of those grades. And then lastly, but not least, Dr. Joan Mass spoke to us about the social study proficiencies, specifically global perspectives. And the Global Perspectives course has been revised to incorporate the content on the relationship between identity and perspective, and the importance of understanding one's identity as a foundation for engaging others. The revisions also emphasize a wider range of actions and dispositions that support the concept of global citizenship being practiced at a local and individual level. The revised proficiencies also reflect the realignment and the revised standards, including the ELA standards for reading, writing, and speaking, then listening, and the technology standards. Next was the AP US Government and Politics, Racism, Genocide, and the Holocaust. The course was revised to incorporate more content on the topic of racism and the ways that it has manifested in today's society. In addition, there's increased emphasis on the concept of bystander culture and the analysis of how students can be more actively engaged in the actions and dispositions of the upstanders. And lastly, Racism, Genocide, and Holocaust, Advanced Placement, U.S. Government and Politics. The course has been revised to reflect the revised curriculum and the exam from the College Board. The new course places emphasis on the analysis and comparison, asking students to apply concepts and themes to specific content throughout the year, to analyze texts and data in order to respond to questions, and to compare and contrast key decisions from the U.S. Supreme Court. Similar to the revisions that were recently made in the AP US History and AP European History, the AP US Government and Politics course will place more emphasis on analysis and synthesis rather than on memorization and recall. And that concludes my report.
It's always a very exciting committee meeting.
Oh, you said it. They have the best meetings, the best information, and it's nice to see all these updates and revisions. It's so interesting. I wish things were this interesting when I was in high school.
Are there any questions or comments for any of the committees who've reported so far? I know we'll hold off on policy.
We'll get to it.
So, did facilities meet?
I was
Yes.
not present.
Who was?
We were at the facilities meeting, but I don't have a report.
I don't have a report either. If you have the agenda, I can report out on it.
I have the
Just
report.
greatly
I
summarized.
can summarize, sure.
All right, Mr. Murray.
So there were several items that were discussed at the facilities report, at the facilities meeting. So some of the highlights were security vestibules at the high school are scheduled to be installed at the end of October. So that should take a couple of days to complete that work. We're also some additional security cameras being installed at the high school, and then the middle school will follow from there. In addition, the installation of lighting and sound system at the Park Auditorium will begin September 21st, so it should have begun last Friday. And then there is a letter concerning ADA access for the turf soccer field, which I think is going to be addressed post-turf completion so that we don't tear up any work that would be completed for that when they tear up the fields and bring all the heavy-duty equipment in. So that'll get addressed as part of the post-that project. And then there's a large list of summer projects that were completed, and I think it's relevant to go through, so I'll go through the long list for this group. So renovation of elementary child study team office, renovation of special services offices, new fire compliant hood installation in the high school kitchen, large enough to accommodate more cooking surface, new paving of the high school parking lot and Evergreen Circle, added parking spaces for Evergreen office staff and ADA visitors, new sidewalk in front of Evergreen on Aberdeen next to Coles, many areas at the high school near Happel Court and door 7 at Park. Alarms installed on high school exterior doors was something that we were also doing, right? Closed off doors from classrooms in high school upstairs media center, added a drop ceiling at the high school nurse and attendance offices, Replace grease traps under the sinks at the high school cafeteria. New stage curtain and window curtains in the high school auditorium. Park Middle School auditorium stained glass was repaired and cleaned. And if you haven't seen it, you should see it. It looks great. I think it was on the opening of schools report as well, right? Replaced some kitchen appliances at Terrell. Repaired flooring at Terrell Villas and installed VCT in all the villa rooms. Repaired and updated a classroom bathroom in School 1, installed speakers in all non-classroom bathrooms in schools, and all playground repairs have been completed. And then there's some additional projects that are still in the works, which I don't need to necessarily go through all of those. And then I think we touched on some of the other items through the Finance Committee with turf field assessments and some additional air conditioning work. So a lot going on, and we still don't know how Mrs. Saradaki ends up handling all of this, but somehow she manages to get a ton of stuff done in the summer while we're all on vacations.
Actually, it's really kudos to our maintenance staff and Director of Facilities.
So,
And our hats off to them, too. Okay, thank you very much for that. So letters to the board, we had two. One was an email, September 15th, 2018, from Jeffrey Longo regarding conditions from the parking lot to the high school soccer field. And one was a letter dated September 19th, 2018, from Jeff Kowalczyk regarding SPF Parents United, a coalition for safety and mental wellness. And that brings us to the superintendent's report, Dr. Hayes.
Thank you, Mrs. Bauer. Tonight, I would ask that the board approve the following revised out-of-district placements for 2018-2019. In the first case, 1507, this is not a change in placement, but it's simply the addition of services relative to Job Academy experiences. And you'll see two entries. One was for the extended school year this last summer, and the other is to continue those experiences throughout the school year for that student. And the second one has to do with a change of placement, not a new placement, but through the student's IEP, it was determined that the student would be better served by attending Montgomery Academy. So I would ask that the board approve those this evening.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
2S tonight, I would ask that the board acknowledge the receipt of the graduation statistics that were reported at the meeting last week.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you. 3S, we would ask that the board approve the following field trip. Our high school AP Environmental Science students wish to travel to Fulper Family Farmstead in Lambertsville, New Jersey on November 20th. The field trip will afford the students the opportunity to explore land use and agricultural practices, both of which are directly related to the class curriculum.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you. And 4S, I would ask that the board approve the following language arts and social studies proficiencies as listed on the agenda. These were reviewed by the board curriculum committee, and Dr. Kulikowski reported out on that this evening, and they are recommending approval.
So moved.
Second.
Any
Roll call.
I know. Any questions or comments from anyone? Okay, Mrs. Saradaki?
Dr. Kulikowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Winkler?
Yes.
Mrs. Brody?
Yes.
Dr. Clancy?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
yes.
Ms. Suriani?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Bauer?
Yes.
Thank you. And finally, I would ask that the board approve the personnel agenda as reviewed in executive session this evening.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Mrs. Saradaki, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Kulikowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Winkler?
Yes.
Mrs. Brody?
Yes.
Dr. Clancy?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Suriani?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Bauer?
Yes.
Thank you, and that concludes my report.
Okay, that brings us to another opportunity for anyone from the public who would like to come to the microphone according to policies 0164 and 0165. Please state your name and the town in which you reside. Seeing no one, Mrs. Saradaki, we're going to move on to the business functions.
Okay, I'd like to group these if nobody
Okay.
has an objection. One BUS is, I'm asking the board's approval on the superintendent's recommendations for staff training reimbursements on the report dated September 25th, 2018. Two BUS, I'm asking the board to acknowledge receipt of disbursement listings for various bank accounts for the month of August 2018. 3 BUS, there are none at this time. That's regarding fire and security drill reports. 4 BUS, I'm asking for the board to approve a vendor for the 2018-19 high school fall play, and that is Morgan Knight at a cost of $2,826. 5 BUS is being put off until October because we haven't received the information for that yet. 6 BUS, I'm asking for the board to approve the disposal or the sale of various equipment that we have that is surplus. The 2 buses are essentially at end of life. As far as the school district is concerned, when you look at the state law as to how many years we're allowed to use them. And the other 4 pieces of equipment are not functioning well. We've replaced them since then. 7 BUS, I'm asking the board to acknowledge receipt of the board secretary report, treasurer's school fund report, and budget adjustments for the month of August 31st, the month ending August 31st, 2018. 8 BUS, I'm asking for the board to approve the bills for the period August 29th till September 21st, 2018, in the amount of $2,618,256.37. 9 BUS was approved at September 13th, as well as 10 BUS. 11 BUS, I'm asking for the board to approve revised agreement costs. We had previously approved agreements with Union County Ed Services Commission. You'll see on the agenda the previously approved rates, and then you'll see what they are revising their rates to for the 2018-19 school year. Also, you'll see for IDEA-B services, the change in rates. The most significant is the change in the rate for, under professional services for administration support, which is going from $39 to $125 an hour. But everything else is more reasonable as far as an increase. And a new fee that they're adding for Chapter 192, 193 services for home instruction. This had previously been able to be deducted from the entitlement. Now it's added on top of the entitlement, so it's a cost that we absorb for them handling home instruction for non-public students for us. The 6%. That's it.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Comments and questions for Mrs. Saradaki? What was their justification for the increase?
They didn't give a justification. Have you heard anything, Mrs. Rubinis? It may
increase costs on their end.
Yes. They've changed administration there, and I think they're just getting their costs in line with their actual costs, what they're charging.
Okay. Anyone else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that brings us to board policies. Mrs. Winkler.
Just
start, I would like to move that the board approve second reading and adoption of the following policies. Policy and Regulation 1613, disclosure and review of applicants' employment history. Policy and Regulation 2361, acceptable use of computer networks/computers and resources. Policy 5514, student use of vehicles on school grounds. Policy and Regulation 5561, use of physical restraint and seclusion techniques for students with disabilities. Policy and Regulation 7424 on bed bugs. Policy and Regulation 7440, school district security. Policy 8550, unpaid meal charges and outstanding food service charges. Policy 8630, bus driver and bus aid responsibility. And Regulation 8630, emergency school bus procedures.
Second. Thank you. You're welcome. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Tonight, I'd like to move that the board approve first reading for the following policies. I'll read them off, and then I'll go back and give a little more detail about them. Regulation 2431.1, emergency procedures for athletic practices and competitions. Policy and Regulation 3160 and its corresponding Policy and Regulation 4160, physical examination. Policy and Regulation 3218 and 4218 on substance abuse. Policy 5300, automated external defibrillators. And Regulation 5300 on AEDs as well. Policy and Regulation 5310, human service, health services. Policy and Regulation 5330, administration of medication. Policy and Regulation 5330.01, administration of medical marijuana. Policy and Regulation 5600, student discipline code of conduct. Policy 6470, payment of claims. Policy and Regulation 5710, use of school facilities. Policy 8505, local wellness policy, nutrient standards for meals and other foods. Policy and Regulation 8441, care of injured and ill persons. And then a little information about each of them and what changes they include. For Regulation 2431.1, emergency procedures for athletic practices, these changes are mandated. Regulations have been revised primarily to include references to sports-related concussions and head injuries. These regulations also expand precautions to include any first aid procedures required by statute, administrative code, or by the superintendent. It includes an expanded definition of parent, and basically that's a summary of what's different there. You all should have received the revised policies, revised regulation for that one. Policy and Regulation 3160 and 4160. 3160 would be regarding our teaching staff, 4160 regarding our support staff. For physical examination, this is mandated, these changes. New Jersey Administrative Code 6A regarding school district operations was revised. And the revisions require that we make revisions to our policy and our regulations. The new policy and regulations expressly state the required physical examination is a condition of employment. Where am I? Why did I lose myself here? And include expanded policy language should a board desire additional optional examinations, which at this time, we are recommending requiring fitness for duty and testing for usage of controlled and dangerous substances for our bus drivers, custodians, and maintenance workers, because they operate heavy machinery and equipment. It would be good to make sure that they are able to do that and are not on drugs or anything. The additional testing is not to determine disabilities, only to determine whether an applicant is actually able to perform with reasonable accommodation these job-related functions. Policy and Regulation 3218 and 4218, which are our substance abuse policies, again, regarding the one for the teaching staff and the other for support staff. These policies and regulations are also mandated that we make these changes. They've been significantly revised to reflect the current practices that are used in school districts if a staff member is suspected of reporting to work under the influence of drugs or alcohol. The new policy is similar to the current policy, except that the new one does not provide specific first offense, second offense, third offense, and fourth offense consequences for the teaching staff. It indicates any staff member who is confirmed as reporting to work under the influence will be subject to appropriate discipline, which may include termination of a non-tenured teaching staff member or the filing of tenure charges for a tenured teaching staff member in accordance with the law. The new regulation guides are more detailed. The major distinction for the teaching staff members and between for the teaching staff members and the support members is the designation of the supervisor who's authorized to meet with the employee upon suspicion of being under the influence, where it would be the principal for a teaching staff member, but for the support staff members, it would go to their supervisor or someone who would be designated by the superintendent to meet with them. Policy and Regulation 5300, automated external defibrillators, is also mandated. The policy was updated to reflect requirements for emergency action plans applicable for each school for responding to sudden cardiac event in which the use of an AED may be necessary. Code references were updated to reflect the latest administrative codes and statutes, and regulations have been added. I guess, I think it was our August meeting when Mr.
September.
Minal had come in and talked about that. I think that it's worth noting for the public's sake that he was concerned about lack of AEDs on the fields near the sports activities, but just that he didn't see them posted clearly on buildings and stuff. We do have them, and our coaches and our trainers do take them to games and to practices so that they are easily accessible if there should be an incident where it is needed. We don't keep them out there for possible vandalism and things like that. But they do get taken out there. Policy and Regulation 5310 regarding health services also is mandated based on revisions to the administrative code that have required several revisions. Defibrillator requirement has been added to the policy, and the new administrative code requirements for medical examinations prior to participation in school-sponsored interscholastic or intramural team or squad has also been added. Policy and Regulation 5330, administration of medication. Public Law 2015, Chapter 13, concerns emergency administration of epinephrine to students for anaphylaxis. The law amends provisions from the New Jersey statutes permitting the school nurse or trained designee to administer epinephrine via an auto-injector mechanism to any student without a known history of anaphylaxis, or to any student whose parent has not met the requirements for the nurse or designee to administer epinephrine when the nurse or trained designee believes in good faith the student is having an anaphylactic reaction. The amendments also require a school district to have a supply of epinephrine auto-injectors in a secure but unlocked and easily accessible location in the school. The amendments also provide immunity from liability for good faith actions of school employees, nurses, agents of the board, so on. And the policy and the regulation have been revised to incorporate these new requirements, which are mandated. As well, legal citations were updated. Policy and Regulation 5330.01, administration of medical marijuana. This is new, but it's also mandated by the state. It's a little funky because the state passed these new statutes, but we have no timeline for when the Department of Education is going to give us guidelines on how we're really supposed to make it work. But in the meantime, we are required to have a policy, so we now have a policy. The New Jersey statute requires school districts to develop a policy authorizing parents, guardians, and primary caregivers to assist a student in the medical use of marijuana pursuant to the Compassionate Use of Medical Marijuana Act while on school grounds, aboard a school bus, or attending a school-sponsored event. The statute indicates the policy must establish protocols for verifying the New Jersey Department of Health registration process for the primary caregiver and the student, identify locations on school grounds where the medical marijuana may be administered, and prohibit the administration of medical marijuana to a student by smoking or other form of inhalation. Policy and Regulation 5600, the Student Discipline Code of Conduct, is also mandated. These changes, New Jersey Administrative Code was updated. It includes requirements for conduct away from school grounds and student records and confidentiality. Revisions are not significant, will not change the manner in which the school district administers the Code of Student Conduct. However, the policy and regulation have been revised to align with the code sections and subsections required. A key component of the new code is a chart of discipline that lists violations of behavioral expectations and school responses to these violations. The code requires the code of conduct be established by the board, and at a minimum, consequences are graded according to the severity of the offenses considered. They should be age appropriate and consistent and show graduated levels of discipline. We have opted to move this chart to the student handbook instead of keeping it in our policy. This way, as things change, we have the flexibility that we update the school's student handbook every year. It gets reviewed every year, where the policy, I mean, we are reviewing it on a fairly consistent basis because they keep changing things and we keep changing things and we want to keep current. But then we don't have to go back and change the policy every single time that something changes. It can all be right there in the student handbook. Policy 6470, payment of claims, is also mandated. But the only substantive change in this policy from its previous form is that the board does not approve payments from student activities and athletic accounts. Our BA will do that. However, we will receive a listing of all payments monthly so that we're still seeing it. We're still informed of what's going on, but our BA will make those decisions. Policy and Regulation 7510, use of school facilities. Primary changes to this policy are the insurance requirements. Primary changes to the regulations are how we handle the local recreation group's use of our facilities. Our facility use form was already updated for insurance purposes, and so now we're updating our policy and our regs to match that. Policy 8505, local wellness policy, nutrient standards for meals and other foods. This is not mandated for us as we are no longer in the National School Lunch Program, but we do want to continue to provide whole and nutritional lunches for our students, and so we have updated our policy to correspond with that in that way. Policy and Regulation 8441, care of injured and ill persons. This one is mandated that we have these updates, revisions to the administrative code requiring legal citation updates. Policy has been updated to provide clear language for meeting the requirements. Let me go back. Skipped something here. The changes to the administrative code require that each board adopt policies and procedures for the provision of health services in emergency situations, including the care of any student who becomes ill or injured while at school or participating in school-sponsored functions, transportation and supervision of any student determined to be in need of immediate care, and notification to parents of any student determined to be in need of immediate medical care. Policy was updated to provide clear language for meeting these requirements. The regulation has a significant update, including the removal of detailed first aid procedures and replacing with the following language indicating that the school nurse will develop, in consultation with the school physician, basic emergency first aid procedures. In the event school staff members may be in the position to provide emergency first aid to an injured or ill person until the school nurse or other medical professional arrives on the scene, the school nurse will make such basic emergency first aid procedures available to school staff members. These revisions are based on ongoing changes in first aid procedures and will provide for the school nurse in consultation with the school physician to review and update these procedures on a regular basis. It provides us much more flexibility. And then, in this sense, we don't have to wait for the board to update the policy, because it says that that will be to the determination of the nurse or other medical personnel who are present.
Is there a second? Thank you very much for that
Yes.
explanation. Any comments or questions on any of those? Okay, it's first reading, and so all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Will still be time if a question arises in your mind. New board business. Other board business, requests to attend workshops? I don't think we really have to request to go to the monthly meetings, right? Because,
It's just if there's a cost involved.
okay. Workshop reports? Okay, so we have some resolutions. Who would like to read the Week of Respect?
I'll read Week of Respect.
Okay. Mrs. Winkler.
I move that the board adopt the following resolution. Whereas the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights, Public Law 2010-C-122, was approved by the New Jersey Legislature in November 2010 and signed into law by Governor Chris Christie on January 2011, and whereas the statute is intended to protect students from harassment and intimidation that would substantially interfere with their education, and whereas in a 2009 survey by the National Centers for Disease Control, 1 in 5 New Jersey students indicated they had been the subject of bullying on school grounds during the previous year, and whereas the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights places expanded responsibilities on teachers, school administrators, and Board of Education to protect students from incidents of bullying, harassment, and intimidation, and whereas the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights designates the week beginning with the first Monday in October as Week of Respect throughout New Jersey, and whereas the law directs school districts to observe the Week of Respect through age-appropriate instruction in accordance with New Jersey's core curriculum content standards, and whereas the Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education recognizes the harmful impact of harassment and bullying on children and is committed to providing all of its students with a safe and secure learning environment free from intimidation, and whereas the Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education supports the intent of the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights to protect our children, as well as the goal of previous law to enhance training and instruction to prevent harassment, intimidation, and bullying. Now therefore be it resolved that the Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education declares October 1st through 5th, 2018 as a week of respect in all district schools. And be it further resolved that the Week of Respect will be part of the Scotch Plains Fanwood Public Schools' ongoing efforts to foster respect among students and staff for the diverse cultures and personalities represented in our neighborhoods and school community. And be it further resolved that copies of this resolution be sent to Governor Phil Murphy, State Senator Nicholas P. Scutari, Assembly Representatives James J. Kennedy and Jerry Green, the New Jersey School Boards Association, and the Union County School Boards Association.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Who would like to read the National School Lunch Week? Mrs. Siriani?
I move that the Board of Education adopts the following resolution. Whereas school districts around the nation will celebrate National School Lunch Week from October 15th through 19th, 2018, and whereas this year's theme for National School Lunch Week is School Lunch, Recipes for Success, encouraging students to get inspired about eating healthy and learning of the benefits of eating a healthy diet of fruits, vegetables, and whole grains. And whereas the National School Lunch Program is dedicated to the health and well-being of our nation's children, and whereas the National School Lunch Program has been joined through the years by many other excellent food and physical activity programs for children, and there is evidence of continued need for education about nutrition in combination with physical activity and awareness of the value of school nutrition programs. And whereas the Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education recognizes that children who are provided breakfast and lunch daily are better prepared for the classroom environment, being able to focus on learning, and whereas it is important for the Scotch Plains and Fanwood communities to understand that education, proper child nutrition, and physical activity go hand in hand, and whereas the State Board of Education continues to recognize and commends the men and women who accept and meet the daily challenge of providing school lunches to our children. And therefore, be it resolved that the week of October 15th through 19th, 2018, recognized as the National School Lunch Week, and be it further resolved that National School Lunch Week be devoted to the recognition of everyone who contributes to the successful operation of our state's school lunch food service programs. And be it further resolved that this special week serve as a fitting time to urge all Scotch Plains and Fanwood residents to become aware of and concerned about their children's and their own nutrition habits in hope of achieving a more healthful community for today and the future.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, what about school violence awareness?
Sure.
I don't know.
Dr. Clancy?
Cindy.
Cindy?
I move that the Board of Education adopts the following resolution. Whereas the Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education encourages awareness and promotes education on effective methods to reduce and prevent youth violence, and recognize warning signs, and raise awareness of school safety and security issues, and provide information that parents, community members, and educators can utilize to make schools safer and more secure. And whereas district schools shall observe this week by organizing activities to prevent school violence, including but not limited to age-appropriate opportunities for student discussion on conflict resolution, issues of student diversity and tolerance. Now therefore be it resolved that the Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education proclaim the week of October 15th to 19th, 2018 as School Violence Awareness Week.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? National Principals Month, also very important. Okay, Mrs. Brody.
I move that the Board of Education approves the following resolution. Whereas the Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education has declared the month of October 2018 as National Principals Month in coordination with the efforts of the National Association of Elementary School Principals, the American Federation of School Administrators, and the National Association of Secondary School Principals, working with the U.S. Congress to designate National Principals Month and resolutions thereof. Whereas the vision, dedication, and determination of a principal provides the leading force behind any school reform effort. Whereas principals are expected to be educational visionaries, instructional leaders, assessment experts, disciplinarians, community builders, public relation experts, budget analysts, facility managers, special programs administrators, and guardians of various legal, contractual, and policy mandated initiatives, as well as committed to the education and development of young people, the most valuable resource. Whereas principals will play a vital role in successful implementation of the Every Student Succeeds Act, ESSA. Whereas principals set the academic tone for their schools and work collaboratively with teachers to develop and maintain high curriculum standards, develop mission statements, and set performance goals and objectives for schools to achieve educational excellence. Whereas the Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education honors such exemplary elementary, public, private, and independent school leaders committed to serving students from pre-kindergarten to grade 8, pre-K through 8 in their profession. Whereas the Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education recognizes outstanding middle level and high school principals who have succeeded in providing high-quality learning opportunities for students, as well as their commendable contributions to the profession. Whereas to honor and recognize the contribution of all school principals and assistant principals at all grade levels to the success of students in New Jersey elementary and secondary schools, and to encourage residents of New Jersey to observe National Principals Month with appropriate ceremonies and activities that promote awareness of school leadership's role in ensuring that every child has access to a high-quality education. Now therefore be it resolved in honor of the service of all elementary, middle level, and high school principals, and to recognize the importance of their school leadership so that every child has access to a high-quality education, the month of October 2018 is hereby designated in the state of New Jersey to be National Principals Month, and the Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education is especially proud to celebrate with all our school principals, Dr. David Heisey, Dr. Jocelyn Dumarisk, Dr. Kevin Holloway, Mr. Scott Bortnick, Dr. Karen Weatherall, Mrs. Colleen Hulbert, Dr. Sasha Slocum, and Mr. Justin Fiore, and commend their continued school leadership accomplishments.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And we have one for our newly tenured teachers that we're recognizing, I believe it's at our next meeting. Who would like to read that?
I'll read it.
Okay, Mrs. Williams.
I'd like to move that the Board of Education approves the following resolution wording. Whereas the mission of the Scotch Plains Fanwood Public Schools is to educate and empower our community of individual learners to be successful citizens of the world. And whereas the Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education will always expect exceptional performance by staff, will always hire only the most qualified candidates, and will promote the maximum performance and achievement of every student and staff member. And whereas the following teachers are deserving of receiving tenure in the Scotch Plains Fanwood Public Schools this year, now therefore be it resolved that the Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education recognizes and congratulates these newly tenured teachers and offers our support and best wishes as they continue to diligently work with our students in the Scotch Plains Fanwood Public Schools.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? 7 OBB is the superintendent merit goals. I believe everyone had a chance to review these. They're both qualitative and quantitative, and they are aligned with the goals for our strategic plan. So they're focusing on areas such as wellness, engagement with the arts, and so forth. Is there a motion? Does somebody want to move that we accept these proposed plans?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and that brings us to approval of the minutes from August. I don't know, we can have a motion and a second, and then we can do abstentions before we vote.
So moved. Second.
Are there any abstentions?
Abstain.
Stephanie and Tanya.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and we have one final opportunity for anyone from the public. If you'd like to comment, please go to the microphone, give us your name, the town in which you reside, and you have 2 minutes. Seeing no one, we'll go to the good of the order. I know there was a lot going on.
Well, it was a great day on Saturday in Scotch Plains. I had the opportunity to go to the football game, watch our varsity players, and it was a good game. So I enjoyed it. And nice to see all the parents out and Dr. Hayes.
And not the same weather as we have today.
That's right, thank goodness. And the varsity girls soccer was going to play against Cranford today. That was canceled, though? I was going to go see that.
It may have been.
Yeah,
I mean, it was.
I hope it was.
I hope so, too.
Anyone else? I just wanted to mention one thing, which is that I noticed on Twitter today that the New Jersey Department of Education tweeted out that the Scotch Plains Fanwood school system and many students across the country are implementing the Start with Hello program. This week-long program encourages a more socially inclusive environment in school. And then they say, how is your school becoming a more inclusive place? So, it's nice to have a Twitter shout out from the Department of Ed. And then I just wanted to remind people on the 11th that it is, we have 32 teachers who will be tenured and 5 administrators, so we'll be starting at 7 to recognize them. So that's a momentous recognition, and we'll look forward to that.
And we also wanted to congratulate our marching band for their home show. They had 15 bands competing last Saturday night, and some very large groups. And they just did an amazing job. My hat's off to all of the parents, the music boosters, and our staff who organized all of that, our custodian and maintenance crew who were there making sure that everything went well, because it was a huge logistical accomplishment. It's one of the bigger turnouts I've seen in recent years, and just the size of some of the groups. They had 4 Group 6 schools in terms of Group 6 open, and there are a lot of kids in those bands, and they were great. They did a wonderful job.
Anyone else? Then can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Have a good evening. We're adjourned. Thank you, Chris.